this video, I'm going to show you how to play Anthony Jackson's Bassline from For the Love of Money, the 1973 hit by the O'Jays. This is a great track to learn if you want to start working on playing 16th note bass lines with the pick. You can download my transcription for this piece by clicking on the link below, and if you also want to check out my brand new intermediate level Plectrum video course, which covers 16th note bass lines like this one, there's a link for that below as well. Okay, let's get started. This track opens with 2 bars of Anthony's famous bass line, so we get to hear it in isolation at the beginning of the track. Now, as you can hear, it's based on a continuous 16th note feel, and when we play 16th notes with the plectrum, we need to give some regard to the way we apply downstrokes and upstrokes. So if we were playing continuous 16ths, we'd be using a continuous down-up picking motion. And we need to bear that in mind when we approach other rhythms within the piece as well, because we want to make sure that we're always playing the correct stroke on the correct subdivision of the beat. That's going to mean we start again on the beginning of the next beat with a nice strong downstroke, and our picking rhythm feels natural and comfortable. Anyway, let's take a look at the opening couple of bars of this song. We're going to start by playing a D, 5th fret of the A string, and then we're going to switch over onto the G string and play a couple of ghost notes. So the D is an 8th note, and then we play 2 16th notes on the G string. That's our first beat. That's a downstroke on the D, and then a down up on the ghost notes. On the second beat, it's continuous 16ths, so down up, down up. This is all on the G string. 2 Ds, octave D, and then 2 ghost notes. That's all we've got so far. On the third beat, we just play 2 notes. We're just going to play 2 Cs at the 5th fret of the G string. And then we stop. We don't play anything else for the rest of the third beat. We rest on the first part of beat 4, and we come in on the and of beat 4 with another C followed by a ghost note. So it's 3, 4, like that. So let me play you bar 1 in its entirety. And again. Okay, that's the first bar of our 2-bar groove. Moving into the second bar, we're going to be playing pretty much continuous 16th notes in. We're going to be alternating between ghost notes. It's going to be mostly ghost notes in this bar, but we're also going to be letting the C at the 5th fret speak out a little bit. So I'm going to play through bar number 2, first of all, and then I'll break it down beat by beat. Okay, so on beat 1, continuous 16ths, ghost, C, and then 2 ghosts. Like that. On beat number 2, we play 2 Cs, a ghost note, then a C. Like that. Let's put beats 1 and 2 together. And again. On beat 3, we have 2 ghost notes, and then we're going to go into this phrase, which takes us into the beginning of beat 4. That's C, B, C, and D. So bar 2, and then we stop immediately after that D and just let the remainder of that beat be silent. Okay, let's go from the top and play bars 1 and 2. That's the first 2 bars of the track. Now bars 3 and 4, very similar. We're very much going to be taking those ideas and just playing something along those lines. The first difference you'll notice is that we play 2 Ds at the beginning of bar 3. So we've got those 2 notes there on the lower D. And the rest of the bar is the same as bar number 1. Now, if you look at bar 4, you'll see that again we're using the ghost notes and letting the C speak out occasionally. It's just a very, very slightly different rhythm. So on the first beat, ghost, C and 2 ghosts, same as it was back in bar number 2. Beat 2 is slightly different. That's a C, 2 ghosts, and a C. Beat 3, 2 ghosts, 2 Cs. And then on beat 4, ghost, C, and 2 ghost notes. There's a lot of ghost notes, and we're just letting those C's sort of speak through in a syncopated rhythm. Let me play through bar number 4 slowly. Now that's the way to work on this line. Just get hold of the transcription from downloading it in the link below, and just work through each of these bars really slowly. Just concentrating on the applying the correct picking stroke, which is quite easy in this bar because it's continuous 16s down and up, and just letting those notes speak out where they need to. Now this is a fairly random sort of sequence of syncopations that Anthony's doing here, and if you look through the remainder of this intro section, you're going to see that although we're playing the same bass line over and over again, essentially he does vary those syncopations in each bar. So if you want to play the line exactly as written, you would need to read through every single bar of that in order to make sure that you're reflecting all of the different syncopations that Anthony plays. Now there's one final part that we need to take a look at, which comes at the end of the this intro section, this A section, and this comes out of the riff that we're playing here, and we're just going to end with this phrase. And this is just a bounce off of the open A string. So we're playing the open A, and then B, C sharp with the open A in between. And that's going to take us into the B section, which is the kind of the verse of the song. So watch out for that. That falls right at the end of the intro section, and it's because of the beat that it's, or the part of the beat that it starts on. It begins with an upstroke. So that open A at the beginning starts with an upstroke. Watch out for that. Okay, let's move on and check out the B section, which is the verse of the song. During this first section of the track, Anthony's maintaining that 16th note feel that we established in the intro, but we also have to factor in another part, which is this descending line. It's the kind of thing that's played by the rest of the band, and it's really giving us the overall harmony of the verse section. Now Anthony makes reference to this in his bass line. So I'm going to talk you through the first bar of the B section really slowly to begin with. So on beat 1, we're going to play 2 Ds, but there's a ghost note in between. So that's down, up, down. Moving on to the second beat of the bar, we're moving on to the G string, and we're going to play the octave D. Now, on the second beat of the bar, we've got a syncopated rhythm. It's a 16th note, an 8th note, followed by a 16th note, which is a short note, long note, short note. And that means we've got some slightly awkward picking strokes to bear in mind here. We're going to be playing down, up, and then another upstroke. Let's look at the notes first, then we'll worry about the strokes. So the first note that we're going to play is this D on the G string, and then we've got a D flat on the A string, and then our final note is going to be a ghost note on the G string. That's going to take us into these 2 Cs. So we're descending from D to D flat to C, but we're just crossing strings a little bit in between. That's our riff. Now that second beat is awkward, doing that rhythm there, that's that 16th note, 8th, 16th note. You're going to be playing downstroke for this D, upstroke for the D flat, and then another upstroke for the ghost note. And it's really important that you stick to these strokes. It might seem a little bit illogical, but it means that you then come back in on beat 3 on a downbeat with a downstroke. It's the correct way of applying plectrum to 16th notes. It can be tricky, but once you get your head around it, it works really well, and it will solve any little problems that you have in your pick playing. Anyway, that's the first 3 beats of the first bar of the B section. On the 4th beat, we've got 4 16th notes, 3 ghost notes, and a C. Like that. So the first bar of the B section. Sounds like that. Moving into the second bar, we're doing pretty much the same things we did back in the intro. Just with a slightly different tail on the end. So we've got some syncopations there in amongst the ghost notes, which you can read through if you've managed to play through the intro, you'll understand how this works. And then the only slight difference is we have this little phrase at the end, and this comes in on the second 16th note subdivision of beat 4. So it starts with an upstroke, like that. Now, in order to start with an upstroke, you typically need to go through what I call a silent downstroke. And that keeps you in the same picking sequence, the continuous down, up, down, up. You can see that when I played then, my hand went through the motion of a downstroke, even though I didn't actually play the note. And that kept me on the same, through the same sequence of strokes as I play the riff. Now that 2-bar line that I've just talked you through there, that's played through 5 times, and it's marked as played similar in the track. There's little variations on that as it goes through, but not really any that are worth teaching the whole thing. If you get those first 2 bars down, you're going to have the whole line under your belt pretty much. Now, there's one little thing to consider in the B section, and that's the end of the 6th time through this riff, which you can see just below the section that we've just talked about in the transcription. We end with these 2 notes, so a C, and then we land on this A at the beginning of the following bar, and then we've got 2 bars with the bass on its own, just doing this. This is alternating between a C and a C sharp. So at the beginning of the bar, we've got this A. That takes us back up to D for the beginning of the next section. Now the bass is really exposed during this section, so it's just you playing on your own pretty much. And it's really important that you play all of these notes with picking strokes. You don't want to be putting any hammer-ons or pull-offs in. It's actually quite difficult to do this because you're alternating strokes with your picking hand, but you're also alternating notes with your fretting hand as well. And the two need to match up really precisely so you don't get all this kind of flubbing of notes and a sort of a clumsy sound. You want this to be really, really accurate. Listen really closely to the way Anthony plays this on the track. It's absolutely flawless, and you need to aim for that. And the key to doing that is playing it slowly. Just being your own worst critic. Does it sound good? And if not, why not? What can I do to fix it? Okay, so that's the B section, which is kind of the verse of this track. The track doesn't really have a verse-chorus structure that's particularly obvious, so I've used rehearsal marks in the transcription, so referring to this as the B section. Anyway, in the next part of the video, we'll be moving on to the next part, which you'll see in the transcription at letter C. If you've managed to get through the previous section of the track unscathed, you're going to find this section really quite straightforward, because this is an adaptation of the line that we just looked at letter B. So we're looking at the line at letter C now. Now we've still got this descending line, but now Anthony plays the whole thing on the A string. So we've got the 2 Ds on beat 1, both downstrokes because they fall on the 1st and the 3rd subdivisions. Tying across into the beginning of the 2nd beat. That D flat falls on the 2nd subdivision of beat 2. So it's down, up, 1, 2. So we're going to be playing that D flat with an upstroke. And then we play an open A string, that falls on the 4th subdivision of beat 2. Down, up. So another upstroke. And then that's going to bring us on to 2 C's, oh sorry, just 1 C, beginning of beat 3. All this talk of downstrokes and upstrokes, it can sound a little bit complicated, but it's the most natural way of playing. It's very likely that's just what you're doing anyway. It's just good to understand it because it can help you solve problems if you encounter them with your picking in the future. Now once you've done that, I'm going to play 2 ghost notes on the G string, and then 2 octave Cs. Like that. That gives us most of the first bar. We've just got one final note to add in, and it's right at the end. And it's going to be a lower C, 3rd fret of the A string. It's going to be played with an upstroke because it's in the final subdivision of beat 4. And it's going to be played immediately following it, but that second note is going to be the first note of the second bar. So I'm going to play all of the first bar of this section leading into the first note of the second. It's going to make sense when I do it. And again. One more time. Okay, so we're getting a few of these lower C's in this variation on the line. Now, the remainder of this part is pretty much the same as what we did back in letter B. Just doing all of that kind of stuff again on the G string with that nice little turnaround phrase at the end. So that's going to get you through the majority of the C section, and you're going to see again that there's repeat marks there, and it just says to play 4 times similar. So there are variations within that in terms of the syncopations that he plays, but they're not really worth writing out the entire line for because it's just tiny, tiny little variations. Now the final section that you do need to watch out for in the C section is in bars 27 and 28. We've got 2 different chords here, G minor 7 for a bar, and then A7 over C sharp for a bar. And we're playing something very simple here. On the G minor 7 chord, we're going to play this. So this is just on a root note G, and we're playing, if you imagine a beat's worth of 16th notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're playing on 1, 2, and 4. 3 is silent. So we're playing a silent down, up, down, playing a silent downstroke. You can see my hand is still going through that continuous down, up motion. And then in the following bar, we do the same thing. 2 beats of that on the C sharp. And then we play an A on beat 3. Keep it nice and short, it's marked staccato. And then beat 4 is silent. Messed up my picking pattern there. And that's going to lead us into the next part of the song. The final part of this song that we need to cover is a bridge section, which you'll see at letter G in the transcription. And for this part of the song, we're really just playing a single repeating bass line that's just 1 bar long. And we're going to play that 6 times. It's based around a G7 chord. And it sounds like this. So let's break that down. We're playing 2 notes on beat 1. That's a G and a B. Both played as downstrokes. The first note, the G, is marked with a staccato dot, so keep that nice and short. And then that B is tied across into the second beat of the bar. Now, within the second beat, we're going to be playing 2 further notes, a C and a C sharp, but they're both played with upstrokes because of the subdivisions of the beat they fall on. Like that. And that puts us nicely back onto a downstroke for the beginning of beat 3. So beginning of beat 3 we have this D, and we play 2 further Ds. That's 8th note, 2 16th notes, down, down, up. That first note, the 8th note, has a staccato dot on it, so keep it short. And then we finish off with 3 notes. These are on the D string, E, 2nd fret, up to the G at the 5th fret, down, up, let the G ring, and then we have a final E played with an upstroke. Now, it would be awkward to repeat the line if we went back to that lower G, but for every subsequent playing of this riff, we play the instead of playing that low G at the beginning, we play the octave G at the 5th fret. So we get this. this riff going round and round and round. And it's played pretty much the same every time. The only differences are, as I say, in the first bar, we start with a low G. After that, it's the octave G. The only other thing to watch out for is the 6th time we play this riff, which is bar number 42. It briefly plays a descending, it's still these two opening notes, but there's a very sort of quietly heard open D string, which basically means descending down through a G major arpeggio. Very easy to play because you're just following that G with an open D and then going to the B. We finish off this section just by playing this A, very staccato, playing it on as eighth notes throughout the next 2 bars. And then rest, and then we're back into the outro of the song, which makes use of repeats of sections and variations of things that we've looked at already. Okay, so I just want to finish off this video by talking about Anthony Jackson's tone on this song and how you can get something close to it. So on the original track, Anthony was using a Fender Precision bass. I'm using a Fender Jazz bass here, but I'm only using the front pickup, so it's fairly close to a Precision sound. So if you've got a P bass, that's going to get you really close straight away. If you've got a Jazz bass, just use the front pickup, and that will get you really, really quite close indeed. If you have any other kind of bass with 2 pickups, just aim for using the neck pickup, and that will get you a fairly similar sound. Now, of course, the notable thing about this track is Anthony's use of a phaser pedal. It was a Maestro Phaser pedal that I believe he used on the track. And as I've been recording the demos for this, I've been using the EBS DPhaser pedal. So I'm just going to kick in this pedal and play you a little demo of the line so you can hear how effective it is. So the final ingredient in the tone has to be a phaser pedal of some kind. My preference is the EBS pedal, but of course there are plenty of others out there as well. Okay, so thanks for checking out this song with me. It's a great piece to play if you're getting into playing the bass with a Plectrum. Now, if you want to get hold of the transcription, make sure you click on the link below. That's going to take you to the download page. And I've also included a link below to my Plectrum Intermediate video course, which is over 3 hours of this kind of stuff. So if you enjoy the way I teach, well worth checking out. Don't forget to leave some comments and suggestions below if you enjoyed the video, and if you have suggestions for things that you'd like to see me cover here on my YouTube channel, do let me know in the comments, as I said. Okay, I'll see you in a future lesson.